The topic is going to be the endless pursuit of profitability. Now I would like to call upon the moderator and the members of the panel. The moderator is going to be Satya Rama Ganapati, the Vice President, Marketing, Shoptimize. Can we have a round of applause as we welcome the moderator on the dais? And we'd like to welcome our panelist, Siddharth R. Dungawarbal, CEO of Snitch. Can we have a round of applause to welcome the gentleman? Sairaj Don, the founder of Bako Foods. Anand Kurma, CEO and co-founder of Wellversed. Sahil Mehta, the founder of Saint Botanica, Muzzle XP, Man Arden, Mom & World. Right now he's a founder and the manager of Muzzle XP. We'd like to welcome Veena Ashia, the founder and chief energy officer of Monroe Shoes and Accessories. Mr. Sushant Goel, the CEO and co-founder of Third Wave Coffee. It's over to you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible? Yeah? Okay. Great. Thank you so much for joining us today, and a very warm welcome to my panel here, stellar panel here. I would like to request you to just take maybe a couple of seconds to introduce yourself and the brand that you represent, so everyone here has some context when we start speaking. Yeah?
Hi, I'm Veena. I am Chief Energy Officer of Monroe Shoes. We are here to ensure that every woman has extremely comfortable and good-looking shoes.
Hi, I'm Sushant. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Third Wave Coffee. We have 50+ stores across India. Our aspiration is to be the #1 coffee brand in India.
Hi, I'm Sahil Mehta, founder of Saint Botanica, Oriental Botanics, Muscle XP, Man Arden, and a couple of few more brands.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, I'm Anand Kurma. I run a wellness accelerator called Wellversed. So we are accelerating around 50 wellness brands from the stage when they are very early to the point when they become investable.
Hi, I'm Sairaj Don. I'm the founder and CEO of Bako Foods. We are India's first jackfruit vegan meat brand. We make products from jackfruit in the form of mock meats.
Hi, this is Siddharth, founder at snitch.co.in. We are a men's fast fashion brand based out of Bangalore.
Great. So let's get started. We've seen a phenomenal rise in the last few years, as in when it comes to D2C brands, right? There are all sorts of numbers being thrown around, 600+ brands, $1.6 billion in funding in this space in the last 4-5 years. And a lot of brands have obviously spent time and invested money in ensuring that their brand is built and then, sort of making sure they have acquired customers. Now that we have this tailwind of COVID behind us, I think everybody's interested in profitability, right? That's the word that's on everybody's minds. That's the topic of conversation today. One of the gentlemen yesterday in one session actually said, and I really liked what he said. He said that, look, my 10-year-old son can burn his way through a couple of $1 million. That's easy. What's difficult is building a sustainable and a profitable brand. And what I'm interested in looking at is, how to build that consistent, steady, upward trend, right? So I thought today we would kind of talk about a few factors that impact profitability. I know there are a lot of things. We have limited time, so I thought we'd probably look at a few factors that impact them. So the first one I was thinking about was average order value. And this is clearly something that has a big impact, and the best of FMCG companies have struggled with it. We can probably start with Sairaj first. Can you give us a sense of how you have tackled this problem?
So thanks, Satya. Yeah, this average order value has been one of our biggest. I think all D2C brands have faced this biggest problem, because if you have a small value proposition, then it doesn't make sense, selling and with all the marketing and performance marketing that we do. So there are two very critical things that we learned throughout the journey, and something that over time we kind of settled into to kind of raise our average order value. First was to bundle our products into combos. That is, I think, the easiest and the most straightforward way where you can go and increase your average order value. Because there are two parts to it. One is that you're also giving the customer something. You need to realize that in the D2C world, customer is always king, but here he's the biggest king. And he has so many brands to go to, so many people to go to. Why does he come to you? So here you can also pamper the customer with some kind of incentive through discounts, but at the same time, you're increasing your average order value by bundling up products together, and you get a bigger price at which you're selling. The second thing that we try to do, and again, it's an incentive, it's an upsell, where we give you free deliveries after a threshold. So, and that threshold would be a little above the cost of your single product. So then you make them purchase another product, so that increases the order value, and it also gives you, so you can factor in that cost, that transport cost is also factored in, and that helps you increase your average order value. So these are two main takeaways that we've done in our business, and we've seen good results from it.
Yeah, the second one you mentioned is actually a really good point. I know, trying to figure out what is the right balance between your AOV and your, the free shipping threshold. So if it's too high, then also it's a problem. If it's too low, then also it's a problem. So getting it just right is the, it's a sweet spot. Anand, any thoughts from your side?
So I think there's a pursuit to increase the AOV across the spectrum when it comes to brands. But I think it has to be viewed from the context which the brand is a part of, right? So AOV, gets impacted by, or I would say the pursuit of AOV gets impacted by two factors. One is what's your CAC? What's your CAC to acquire the first customer? Second, what is your logistics cost, right? So the pursuit to increase AOV is to optimize these two factors. But if you look at different contexts, let's say a brand like Country Delight, where you have logged in the consumer by acquiring them for the first time, so you know that your lifetime value is high, and your delivery network supports recurring deliveries. So you can even sustain lower AOVs in that context, right? So I think the pursuit to increase AOV should be there, but it shouldn't be blind in that sense.
Very interesting. Your point on LTV actually brings me to my next question that's on lifetime value. They say it's 7 times more expensive to acquire a customer than it is to retain a customer, right? So I think for most brands, it's important to look at what is your retention strategy when you're thinking about acquisition strategy itself. And at the same time, look at LTV, right? And that's going to be a critical point in sort of increasing your profitability. So I wanted to ask this question to Shant first. If you can tell me any thoughts on, how would you look at increasing LTV?
So I think, even before talking about LTV, the first thing that we look at is, does a customer come back to us? So it's easy to possibly acquire, and it's expensive to acquire the first customer, but do they come back to us the second time? And that's the first true measure of NPS, right? If we haven't cracked that customer the second time, there's no question of LTV, subscription, any of these things, right? Post acquiring the customer and the customer coming back the second time, we start thinking about how do we engage them for a longer period of time, right? And then you start thinking about subscription. And subscription, very honestly speaking, is a double-edged sword, because very few of your really true patrons, loyal customers will come to you and subscribe. And those customers will probably be there with you for a very long time in your journey. But the challenge is that it's a very small percentage of customers. So I think the idea is, how do you mix your product mix? How do you package your subscription? So, we're an offline brand before we are an online brand. And one of the few things that we did, and we packaged subscription very differently, was we didn't want our customers to go to a competitor. And we said that let's lock them in. So we got them to buy a pack of 10 cappuccinos, right? And we said we're not going to attach a time limit to it, because we don't have enough density of stores across the country. And it worked beautifully, because we had about 10% of our customer base that was coming to a third wave every day, actually subscribing to a cappuccino pack, and I think the flexibility of it helped. So I think packaging subscription to lead to a larger lifetime value really helps. I think for most D2C founders, before even thinking about LTV, and it's a very difficult metric to really measure, you should think about, does the customer and how do you bring the customer back the second time?
Interesting. Sahib, do you want to add on?
See, it is very important to engage, means to get a right kind of audience to your platform, first of all. Like if you're talking about new customer acquisition, if we are getting like-minded customers who would be beneficial for a long term, then that would be beneficial to spend on, to acquire that customer, to spend more on it. So filtering the audience is first, I think it's the first most point that should be taken care of while acquiring the new customers. And then the similar strategy should be taken care of while engaging those customers. Because you know the complete history of that customer, like what all he has got, where he has got from, and what all payment methods he has used. So using all those strategies, you can easily pitch to that customer in a personalized manner. So that can reduce a lot of the costings. Yeah, we keep experimenting with all these things. So see, one strategy cannot go for a long term. You have to keep amending your things. You have to experiment new and new strategies. You have to see what is working, what is not working, and what better can be done.
I actually had a follow-up question on lifetime value, and this was on post-sale service. Now that's obviously something that's a difficult one and very, very important to do if you want to retain your customer and if you want to extract that value from them. So Veena and Siddharth, could you shed some light on this? What are some of the challenges that you have faced?
Thank you so much. In a footwear consumer journey, it's very important to understand when will the consumer open the box? After how many days do you want to check if the consumer likes the fit or not? And to know when is it the right time for the repeat, right? So for example, when a Monroe customer buys shoes from us, usually within the first 3 days, they would have tried the shoe. So I think after the third day, it's good to just call up and ask, hey, do you like the fit? Right? Typically, after a month, the shoe tends to show its real power, right? Like you must have walked. So now it's like a real NPS score. You know, have you done a good job serving that customer? So that's 1 month, right? And then somewhere between 60 days to 90 days is an urge to buy another shoe, right? Now, this behavior could be different in different categories, right? So for example, in skincare, maybe 2 days, 2 months, you know, after 2 months, she wants to refill the skincare, right? So I feel it's very important to understand how your consumer uses the product so that at the right time, you can ask the right questions, right? So imagine our customer team calling after 7 days saying, would you like to buy another pair of shoes? It doesn't make sense, right? Like, I'm sure there are a lot of shoe lovers who would do it, but intuitively, you want to allow at least 2 months time before you ask, hey, we have new set of loafers coming in, would you like to have a look at it? I can send it over on WhatsApp, right? So I think understanding when to reach out to customer again and in what context makes a lot of difference.
Siddharth?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for us, it is creating stickiness to the brand. Consumers these days, you know, they want to try different kind of brands, especially in the apparel space or FMCG or skincare. They are not very consistent. So how could you build that stickiness? And it is about upselling and cross-selling. So what we really focus on is cross-selling. For example, if a customer has bought a shirt today, how could I sell him a denim? Or maybe if he's bought a denim, how could I sell him a t-shirt? And then increase the average order value as well as the LTV. Just to give you an example, we send a thank you card with every shipment, which generates at least 5,000 orders for us on a monthly basis, which is just to incentivize, the customer to come back to us. So, I mean, different things would work with different brands, but for us, it is more towards cross-selling, upselling, and building the entire loyalty around our consumers.
Okay. Let's talk about delivery costs. So, how do you optimize on your delivery costs without compromising on your customer experience? Sahil, I sort of wanted to understand, one of the brands that you're associated with is Muscle XP, and I'm sure there the product sizes are probably bigger. You have larger packs, so heavier and probably higher courier costs. And on the other hand, we have, Wakao, Sairaj, where you have your, I'm guessing, your centralized production in Goa, and then you're selling pan-India, shipping pan-India, and probably a entirely different model there. So I'm curious to know the two ends of the perspective from both of you. Sahil or Sairaj, either one of you.
So there's not much we can do. If the whey powder is 1 kg, definitely we have to pay for 1.5 kg. We can't go with the 2 kg, and we can't go with less than 1 kg. So the courier companies, we ensure that we are charged between 1 to 1.5 kg slab only in that case. And sometimes if we have to make a combo, for example, if we have to make a shaker along with the powder, then also we design the box such that it fits in that 1.5 kg slab. So that customer gets an add-on, he pays rupees 100, 150 rupees extra, and then we give him a shaker as well, and it ships in the same weight slab. So these are the only things we can do. If it is 400 gram, then we have to make sure that it comes under 500 gram. If it is 750 gram, we have to ensure that things come under 1 kg. So we have to see all these things when we are finalizing the weight of the product. So generally, the trends for the Muscle XP is 1 kg and 500 kg. We can't do much about it. But for other variants like peanut butter is there, then there are so many other powders which we can go with 250 gram, 400 gram, and 750 gram, which we can play around with, so as to reduce our shipping cost. Because if it is 400 gram, you will try to fit under 500 gram. But if you make it 500 gram, you definitely have to pay 1 kg rate slab.
So this is a very, very important question for us, because for us, it's directly connected to profitability. So even a rupee saved on shipping cost is directly added to our net profit. So in fact, we've done a very deep study on this in the last few days in our organization, where we've tried to understand what is the most cheapest and the best and most effective way of transporting our good to our customer. So we have different customers. We have B2B customers, we have D2C customers, we have retailers. So we have different people to whom we sell in different sizes and shapes. So one thing that we understood is we need to reduce the touch points. So our manufacturing happens in Kerala, not in Goa. So our warehouse is in Goa. So we were earlier getting from Kerala to Goa to then, so that the distance was a lot. So now we are looking at how we can ship it directly from Kerala to the consumer, or at least to a part consumer. Now, the second part here is if we can have our products stocked at different warehouses across the country, that transportation cost reduces drastically. Second, we can provide 24-hour shipping services, which is a big, big draw to the customer. Now, how that works and how it becomes economical, because we are in Goa, so I'm sure a few of you all would not be from metros, right? So the slab again changes. With any company, logistic company, if you're shipping from rest of India to a metro or to rest of India, it's always expensive than from a metro to a metro, or from metro to rest of India. So us being placed in a warehouse in Delhi or in Bombay would always be cheaper to any other place in India than from Goa. So now we have already done our study and we have come down to 1 or 2 good companies who can actually be great partners for us to have our products stocked with them. So we can have a 24-hour delivery first. Second, we can have a more efficient and easier way of sending our products. That also downsizes our packaging team in-house. So we are also saving costs there. So we've kind of tried and done this entire study to see where we can save costs, because one thing we've realized, and one thing all of you all will realize is, saving even a rupee in logistics is a direct profit. It's not going anywhere else. It's coming into your profit. So these are some of the things that we've tried to work on. And also another thing to this is when you're sending it to the warehouse, it is going in bulk costing, not in the loose costing. So that costing is always cheaper than sending a pack of 500 grams or 1 kg. So when you're sending in 10 kgs, 20 kgs loads, it's much more cheaper. So that whole math works better. So I think if you can do a micro analysis on how this whole logistic works, you can save a lot of money.
I think finding the right partner is also going to be really, really critical on this one. Yeah. Please do.
See, even we have regional warehouses across different states, and the only negative part is we have to then transport to different states, and that logistic is also very, very expensive unless it is a complete truckload going over there to the states. And then there are many companies, inventory-based companies now who can centralize your orders. Like if you are ordering from Mumbai, then from the order gets shipped from your Mumbai region, and you just charge for the regional or the local delivery. So over there as well, then you save the costs.
Okay. Next question is on probably one of the biggest challenges that brands face, returns and exchanges. So how do you tackle this problem, which is really, really prevalent, especially in the fashion industry? Siddharth, you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, returns is like a termite, right? You cannot remove it from the system. You could just create maybe tools around them to control them, but it is not removable. Especially for us being a bootstrapped company and making sure we grow month on month, we take returns and exchange very seriously. So the first and foremost thing is the customers first coming to your website, seeing the product. The image needs to match the product exactly, especially in the fashion industry. Because a lot of time what happens is you've seen a maroon shirt, but you've got a wine shirt at delivery because of the color correction was not done properly. Second is the size chart. We take it very seriously. Each and every product needs to match the size chart that has been uploaded on the website. And third thing is, again, communication. The kind of communication you build with the customer. It is from the time an order is placed till the time it is delivered. Right communication is really important. Third is your delivery speed. How soon can you ship? I mean, 84% of the consumers we've spoken to say that delivery time, I mean, the faster the delivery, the more happier they are. So delivery is another factor. Apart from that, I think it is again the kind of loyalty you bring around your brand, the kind of stickiness that you could create with your content, with your story, having genuine reviews across social media platforms, across your website. So yeah, all these factors help us reduce returns.
Veena, any thoughts?
This is such a heavy question. How do you reduce your returns? Because all our investors keep only asking one question, right? But I think we also have to understand that in a lifestyle category, it is bound to happen, I think, and he said rightly, right? It's like a termite, we all will face it, right? In our experience, all the research development investment we have done to standardized Monroe shoes has helped. We're still at an early stage. What I mean by that is if you typically fit into, let's say, a 38 of Monroe, you would fit into 38 of Monroe irrespective, right? That itself is a very, very big defense you build against return, right? I also feel that doing fairly detailed customer review back on returns, right? Because if you see in the websites, you'll have drop downs of reasons of return, people will click on the first one. Even if you say, I don't know, that is the most evident answer. So I think data has some sort of a limitation because people will not share that much of information. But if you pick a bunch of customers and you have fantastic customer care person who just somehow knows how to talk, you will get a lot of insights on why people are returning. And I can give you a very good example of something which I'm wearing now. I'm wearing a nude color heel, right? Early on when we launched this, we had certain returns, and our learning was this color on Indian skin tone is different on different skin tone, right? And the model we had shot was of a certain skin tone, so it looked great. Then we learned that it's important to have models of different skin tones so that the customer has some sort of an idea how this color would actually look on some sort of a skin tone, right? Instead of just viewing the product on a fair skin model who on a nude shoes would look great, right? So I think just hearing the consumer out, detailed one-to-one conversation to understand why they are returning, and to hit some sort of a holy grail of standardization, where if a product of yours which is size-based would just deliver what you promise, which is if you promise you would fit into a small, you would fit into a small.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think Indians are also becoming extremely discerning when it comes to quality. And typically when they look at a product on a website and they're trying the product out for the first time, it's very hard to gauge what the quality of that product is. And this is sort of universal across all categories, right? Whether it's food, whether it's fashion. So I think spending deep time in your organizations really cracking R&D and cracking product quality is very key. Because in our case, we see a lot of returns happening because the expectation is X and we produce Y. And it's very hard to get back and understand what was the expectation that the consumer had, because if you're selling on Amazon, you're getting no data as to why that's coming back to you. So I think spending deep time on product quality is also key to sort of reducing your returns and exchanges.
You know, Veena, when you said standardization, that's, I think even in apparel, you get there, but in footwear, and speaking from experience, it's impossible. Every brand is at a different standard size, and probably one of the bigger reasons why there's just so much of returns and exchanges. The other problem is also around RTO, right? And I think the gentleman before us spoke a little bit about using AI and technology there on, how to tackle that problem. Anybody, any thoughts on that?
I don't think we need AI. We just need genuine delivery boys not putting false comments. That's it. I think that's #1 problem in RTO, because as a brand, you will go and see a dashboard which is updated by the delivery partner, and the delivery person would have just said, yeah, attempted, right? And then when you talk to the customer, the attempt was not made, right? So I think the biggest way to judge a delivery company is you should see the ratio of false attempts in their dashboard. That means genuinely as a company, they are fine with their delivery boys giving false information. AI will come much later. We just need basic intelligence in the first place.
Sure. Sahil, you wanted to?
Very important. Hello. So it is very important to see the order address and also to use the softwares which see whether the order is genuine or not, whether the address is genuine or not, whether the address is complete or not. So this definitely helps a lot to reduce the RTOs, because if there is any kind of address fault, then that software detects it, and the order is not accepted unless and until it is corrected. So this is one of the way. And then second option is that whatever shipping method you are using, the courier partner, that courier partner has to update, or your website has to update the customer what is the current status of your order by at least 2 messages, that your order has been shipped, your order has reached this place, or your order will be delivered on this place or this time. So these are one of the 2 factors which can definitely reduce the RTOs.
Okay. My last question is on CAC. Everybody's talking about data being the secret sauce, that can help improve operational efficiencies, that can help you with real-time decision making. Any thoughts on how you think, or if you think data can really impact profitability, and how AI can enhance this or speed this process? Anand, if I can come to you first.
So I think obviously data has a huge role to play. But what we feel is that the first and foremost pillar of profitability or repeats is the product itself, right? So if your product is not great, the user doesn't want to buy it again, no amount of data or no amount of marketing is going to compensate for that, right? So typically so we are accelerating brands across the spectrum, skincare, food, nutrition and stuff like that. So typically when we speak to founders, this is one thing that they completely miss out on, and they get, I think, bogged down by all the brand building advice that is out there, right? So your story, brand building part or data part of things comes in very late, right? So if the consumer is willing to buy your product for the first time, it means the need is there or the desire is there. If the consumer is willing to buy your product the second time, it means the product market fit is there. You have cracked the product, right? Until that is not there, data is not going to do anything. So this is what my take is. Yeah.
Sushant, your take. I know you come from an analytics background prior to Third Wave, so looking to hear some thoughts.
Yeah, I think my fellow panelists all run very successful online-first businesses. We are primarily an offline-first business. So actually data plays even a more crucial role, right? Because we actually don't know who the consumer is. We don't know, what they're buying. We don't have a unique identifier. So very early on in our journey, I think we said we really needed to understand the consumer. So we built out a loyalty program and said that every consumer walking into our stores will get a X% cash back in order to be able to transact with us. And we saw 40% of our consumer base today using that particular app. And what that helped us do is really track metrics around how frequently were they coming back to us, right? I think everyone talks about repeat behavior, and category to category, it's different. So for fashion, you can maybe buy it every 3 months or every 3 weeks. For our category, we expect our consumers to come in every day. And there are triggers and specific actions that we can take to get them in. And the only way to do that is by understanding their behavior, right? So if a consumer is coming into our stores on a weekday and they're not coming in on a weekend, how do we trigger them to come in on a weekend? So, there are a bunch of other sort of buzzwords that you can throw around: IoT, understanding analytics, spatial analytics, to understand how consumers are interacting with your space when they are at your stores. But I think, of course, data is the central focus for all our businesses because that's the only way to, over a period of time, build profitability. But I think first and foremost, most D2C founders should spend time understanding what their total addressable market is and how large a business do they want to build, right? I think the discussion is around profitability. You can build a very successful, profitable 10 crore brand, 50 crore brand, 1,000 crore brand. All of our markets are evolving and growing in India because consumers are growing. And I think you constantly are thinking about how much to spend on marketing in order to increase revenue versus cut down your burn, right? And the big question comes around what are the channels you're using to be able to market, right? So you have, of course, your online channels of Instagram, Facebook, Google to constantly sort of be in the face of the customer in today's digital world. But India is a very diverse country. What works in metro and tier 1 doesn't work in tier 2. And you need to think very differently about what your marketing strategy is going to be for those cities. So I would urge most founders here to really think deeply about what their total addressable market is, what size of business do they want to build. Because if your total addressable market is very small, you're actually going to spend a lot of money acquiring your first customer. That's I think a big part of understanding what your path to profitability is ultimately going to be.
So like they say, the devil lies in the detail. So it's also important, why data is important is also to tell you what not to do. So a lot of times we get carried away and we are so bullish about certain things that we keep on plowing money in that, we keep on doing that, and we think that everything is going fine, but that data really gives you a knockout punch sometimes and tells you, boss, stop this. This is not working for you. And especially in a business like ours where we have multiple avenues in which we can sell. We do exports, we do Horeca, we do offline retail, we do D2C, we do marketplace sales. So your data plays a very important role in telling us which should be the areas that you really need to focus on and push larger larger traction towards that area, at least for now, till that market matures. So therefore, data plays a very important role in also identifying all of that and telling you which is the place to go to, right, and what you should stop doing.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And like Sushant said, most founders here are, digital-first brands. And I think there's just so much of data out there, and I think the biggest challenge is data exists in silos. And today we are not really connecting the dots. So what's happening is that, you like you said, Sairaj, that you're, bullish about something and you don't really know whether, it's going to impact something else. Similarly, you spoke about marketing dollars. I think it's very important to understand where you should put your money. You may have the money, but where should you put it? And, how do you attribute, for example, attribution is a big topic these days. What is the right place to put your money and how do you find that out? It's not going to be just by experimentation. Data is one way to do it. And there are so many, similar such use cases with data that can sort of, help you take the right decisions at the right time in the right place, right? I'd like to throw the panel open for questions from the audience. Someone there?
Hi, I'm Radhika Biani. I work with Narottam Sikseria Family Office. My question to the panel is, what's an ideal return on ad spends which works for you, maybe through website or through social media channels?
So I'll take that one. So the first thing when I heard the topic, I said, do D2C brands really, are they really profitable? Because we burn so much money. You try to, so ROAS is a buzzword. It's something that we love hearing, 2 ROAS hai, 3 ROAS hai, 4 hai, 4 kabhi dekha nahi hai. So, it again, it depends on which, I feel which stage of your journey you are in. So when you're, and what are you going out to the market and doing right now? So are you warming up the consumers? There are a lot of buzzwords that they use and that your agencies tell you. So are you warming the customer right now? Are you targeting them with certain things? Are you bombarding them with ads to make sales? So I think a fair ROAS, a person for a brand to survive and to do well, you need to be floating between 2 and 3 at least. Although that would also mean burning a lot of money, but to start off with, no one gets a direct jump. You have to go through the processes, and only then once you reach out to the consumers, they start liking you. When your repeats increase, your ROAS is definitely going to increase.
I think a controversial question would be, should we even be looking at ROAS or should we just be looking at LTV? Because if you're looking at short-term transactional, then yes, it makes sense. But if you're looking at long-term and you're, thinking what is, how much am I spending to acquire this customer and how much value do I get out of him, then maybe that's a longer-term strategy that you would be thinking about.
So I think it also has to be looked from the perspective of which market you are building for, right? So there are brands, let's say if you're building a coffee brand, right? So the need is already there, but you are just creating another coffee brand. So initial CACs would be higher, right? Because you're competing against all those other brands. So that is one category. Second category is where the need or desire is there and your product conforms to existing behavior, right? CACs will be slightly lower. Need is there, behavior already exists, right? Then the third category would be where you have identified a need, but you want your consumer to change your behavior slightly. And then CACs would again be higher, right? Things like that. So I think it has to be looked from that perspective.
Any other questions?
Question, I think, Sairaj, on the point that you had made. When you look at D2C businesses and you say that are they really profitable or ROAS of 2, 3 plus. So given that you have other channels that you could perhaps start off with that could be more profitable, what is the long-term vision that you have to build to D2C?
So see, we want, so my personal vision you're asking for my brand? Just in general.
Yeah, in general.
So when you have omni-channels to sell, now there are 2, 3 things. Today, the fastest way to build a brand is through the online platform. Because the offline platform to build a brand per se is very expensive. To reach out to that audience, it becomes very difficult. Here, online, you reach a much bigger audience at a much lesser cost as compared to offline marketing. So if you want to really build a brand and get into the, like how Vinita was talking about sugar, that you need to get in the consciousness of people, then that's online for you. That's where you go really strong for that. For us or for other brands, you could have a low-hanging fruit in some other sector. Like for us, it's exports. We know that exports is a mature market. For us, we are building the brand in India. The whole market we are building in India. So you need to identify which is your low-hanging fruit first. Make sure that your wheels are rolling with that low-hanging fruit. You're getting in that revenue from there. You have to have a proper strategy of how much you're going to spend over here in your D2C or in the brand building, because that will obviously spill over tomorrow in your offline retail. Offline retail, again, is an ocean. You will be placed in the middle of almost 2,000, 5,000 brands in a big store. How do you get that recollect? When a consumer is walking, should he go there for your brand, or when he sees your brand, should remember your brand? How will you do that? Unless you have hoardings somewhere across, which are very expensive, or you keep coming on his feed. You keep coming, whenever they're seeing Instagram, oh, this is that. He may not make a purchase, but he's seeing you. So when he walks into a store and sees your product, he says, this brand, I need to buy it. So yes, so it's a mixed strategy. There's no one strategy suits all. You need to figure out what is the best strategy for your brand, taking into consideration which is your low-hanging fruit, which is your target TG, and then strategize accordingly.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you so much, panelists. Lovely having you here, and I really enjoyed our conversation. Look forward to, I hope you have a great D2C journey. And Sushant, I know your belief is in offline over online, but I wish you well on the D2C journey as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I request our moderator to kindly honor our panelists with a token of love. Can I request the hostess to kindly help us?
Each